In today's show, we're looking ahead to week 19 in the NBA. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. And we're available on all platforms. We've got week 19. Fantasy playoffs are coming up. Not that far away for a lot of people. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, depending on your league. And we're going to talk about how this week plays out for fantasy, which guys we can look at to start, to sit, how we maximize our games played for the week. So, Warnie, what do you think?
Let's get it on, Gilly.
Let's start by looking at how the games play. Actually, you know what? Let's start with something different. Because I've been asked it multiple times already. Markelle Fultz is coming back this week. And no, you should not add him in 12-team leagues. Maybe you do it in 18-team leagues. But again, he's coming back off an ACL injury. I'm sure he will come off the bench behind Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs. Maybe he pushes to 26 minutes at some point. In a points league, he's a better player than a category league. And I could see on the 25th of March him being a points league top 120 player. In a category league, I don't really see it. I don't think the minutes will be there. I think he takes minutes away from Ross and Harris. Takes RJ Hampton's playing time, sure, that's all fine. But he's not going to be just waltzing into 30 minutes and minimizing what Suggs is doing or minimize Anthony's playing time to get him back in there. I don't think we should view it that way. And him, along with the return of Victor Oladipo, which is coming soon, I just would not bother. I wouldn't bother at all. So that's it about that. Let's look at how the week plays out. We've got a week with 5 games. We've got a week with 2 games. Weird one. 5 games for the Raptors, 2 games for the Blazers. So obviously huge discrepancies between having a Portland player or a Toronto player. But interestingly, the majority of teams play 3 games. 17 teams play 3 games this week. That is the Jazz, Nuggets, Spurs, Clippers, Suns, Wizards, Celtics, Bulls, Hornets, Mavericks, Pelicans, Warriors, Pistons, Sixers, Hawks, Knicks, and Lakers all play 3. For the 4 gamers, you've got Grizzlies, Pacers, Cavs, Thunder, Wolves, Kings, Magic, Heat, Bucks, Rockets, and Nets. But with the majority of teams playing 3 games, it sort of does lessen that impact of the 2-game week. It's not ideal still, and they're not a fantasy powerhouse anyway. We'll talk about, in terms of weekly leagues, which players you start and sit on the Blazers later on. But it's not as... Like, if you had 20 teams playing 4 games and you playing 2, then that's not ideal. Yeah, compared to Toronto, it's shithouse. But with the majority playing 3 games, it's not as bad. So other interesting schedule things to look at. All of the Pacers 4 games are on the road. All of the Kings 4 games are on the road. The Nets, Kyrie, currently available to play 2 of the... Actually, that is not true. I said he's currently available to play 2 because they have 2 home games and 2 road games. But I believe, and I'm just going to double check that, I think one of the road games is in Toronto. And I am fairly certain that Kyrie cannot play in that game. So let's look. Yes, that is correct. Kyrie Irving can play 1 game next week? 2 games. Oh, no. Hang on. No, he can play... Yeah, he can't play... What am I looking at? No, he can play 1 game next week, and that is next Sunday. That's all he can play. So, obviously, that is very, very far from ideal, that he is going to miss all 3 of those games to start the week. But that is that's the issue, isn't it, with having Kyrie on your roster is knowing that there are going to be absences, and they're going to be frustrating absences, and they're going to be hard to plan for absences at times. And there you go, 1 game for the week, unless there's a change to New York's rules in that interim time frame, which I guess is possible, but no guarantee at all that is what's going to go down. But Kyrie will play just the one game next week due to that one of those road games being in Toronto. In terms of other schedule quirks, the Nuggets, the Wizards, the Celtics, all three of their games are at home. The Jazz, the Warriors, and the Knicks, all three of their games are on the road. The Blazers' 2 games are both on the road as well. So that's sort of how we're looking. Well, that's not sort of how we're looking at. That is exactly how we're looking at how the schedule breaks down for this week. In terms of on a day-by-day basis, it's a very, very evenly spaced out week. We've got 7 games on Monday, 6 on Tuesday, 6 on Tuesday, 8 on Wednesday, 7 on Thursday, 9 on Friday, 6 on Saturday, and 8 on Sunday. And because you're not seeing any double digits there, that means we can stream every single day. We can stream every single day for this week, which means maximizing the use of your ads, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But you can stream every day this week. Again, that is a blanket statement, and you need to look at your individual roster construction. Have a look how the roster shakes out every day. You might have a situation where on one of those 9 game days, you can't stream. But I think you will be able to in nearly all cases. So that is something that you need to be paying some attention to. You also need to be paying attention to Built Bar because it is the best tasting protein bar ever. Have you tried their puffs? It's the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. That's a sentence I never thought I'd ever say. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar. They're a treat covered in 100% real chocolate. You know Built Bar's great. It's like a candy bar, but it tastes fantastic, stuffed full of protein. 17 grams in most of these bars, but just low calories, 130, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs. And the 100% real chocolate, that is an absolute game changer. It's a winner. It's one of those things that you love, and if you don't have it, you really miss out that taste. And Built Bar has you covered right across the board. So whether it's mint brownie or coconut almond, and there's a new flavor apparently, white chocolate cookies and cream. There you go. So go to Built.com and use the code LOCKED15. That will save you 15% off your order of Built Bars. Built Bar is built different. Let's look at the back-to-backs for the week. We've got back-to-backs across every day of the week, so that's useful to know. The Raptors and the Wolves start off with a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. No real rest guys there, although we know Fred VanVleet's knee's been giving him some problems. So there is a little bit of a concern there, I guess, that maybe Fred, especially with a 5-game week, although it is Nicholas Nurse, so I don't know how worried we should be about that. But there is that chance, I guess, that he could sit out. If you want to look, actually, I should have mentioned this already, but the teams that play the Sunday, Monday back-to-back, so you want to add someone for tomorrow's games and get the additional benefit on Monday, you're looking at Hornets and Pacers. Pacers, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, O'Shea Brissett. These sort of guys with some great stream value. Hornets, deeper leagues, you're looking at JT Thor, you're looking at Mason Plumlee, PJ Washington, Kelly Oubre, those sort of players. But that's how we're looking to start the week. Raptors and Timberwolves with the Monday, Tuesday. The Raptors, of course, with 5 games, they've got a pair of back-to-backs this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, there is only one team that has that back-to-back, and that is the Houston Rockets. So you might be looking at a Dennis Schroeder in that situation. Maybe it is time for the delicate dancer Alperen Şengün. It's the wild thing, Jay Sean Tate, if he's not rostered in your league.
Even the wild thing's gone well. I can't do much about that.
A few different Gary Bird. Eric Gordon will sit one of those games as well, so be aware of that. So that gives an extra boost to Matthews, KJ Martin, Jay Sean Tate in that situation. Wednesday, Thursday, the Kings and the Heat have that back-to-back. The Kings, you're looking at Davion and Dante and Justin Holiday and Jeremy Lamb, maybe Mo Harkless. The Heat, less interesting, probably PJ Tucker, Gabe Vincent, who can stream in that spot. Thursday, Friday, we've got a lot of teams with the back-to-back. That's Raptors, Bulls, Pistons, Hawks, so that's the Raptors' second back-to-back of the week. Friday, Saturday, it's the second back-to-back for the Timberwolves. So they have 4 games this week, both back-to-backs. So with the Wolves guys, you're looking at maybe it's Malik Beasley, maybe it's Nazareth Reed, Jaden McDaniels, Jared Vanderbilt. The Magic, well, Markelle Fultz is probably going to sit one of those games. There's the back-to-back coming back from the ACL. And then you got the Sixers. Tyrese Maxey, if he was dropped, he shouldn't have been dropped. We'll see how he's performing when we get to this game, though. But you're looking at maybe a George Niang, maybe a Furkan, maybe a Shake Milton in that situation. And then lastly, on Saturday, Sunday, it's just the Grizzlies. So a really good way to end the week with a DeAnthony Melton, maybe a Zaire Williams, Brandon Clark if he's not rostered. They're probably your best options there. In terms of a streaming plan, the only real way with assuming 1 streaming spot and 4 ads for the week, which is a standard. Obviously, streaming spots, you can have as many as you want. There's no point having 3 streaming spots on your roster and 4 ads for the week. It doesn't actually do anything. So sometimes having 2 roster spots or 2 streaming spots and 4 ads, you can get some real benefit. And if you're in a situation where you've got those 2 spots to stream, where you look who starts off the week with 3 games in 4 nights and use one of that spot for that sort of that sort of team, and then you look who ends the week with 2 games in 3 nights, and get from that 2 ads, you get 5 spots, 5 guys in, and then you can do the same with the other area, with the other roster spot. But if you're doing the standard, I've got 4 ads, I've got 1 streaming spot. What I think you need to do is look Monday, Tuesday, so stream a Raptors guy in or a Timberwolves player. Then drop them after Tuesday. Add a Kings or a Heat player on Wednesday for the Wednesday, Thursday. Drop them on Thursday. On Friday, you add someone from the Wolves, the Magic, and the Sixers. I don't know why I kept that Saturday, Sunday in there because that's not necessary. After Saturday, you just drop and you add whoever you want on Sunday. That gives you 7 games. 7 games played from 1 roster spot, where in general you'd get 4. That is the value of streaming. That is why I say all the time, and you hear me go on about it all the time, your worst player just needs to be dropped to be streamed. You don't just need to drop them, but you need to look at that roster spot and go, well, if that player's playing 4 games, I can actually get 3 extra games in a lot of cases. And that's basically best case scenario here. 7 extra games, 1 each day from that roster spot by streaming. And that's exactly what you can do here. So that's key. 3 more games for the week. Now, if your worst player is a Raptors player, they got 5 games for the week. It's not as impactful, but then your worst player probably becomes whoever that other guy is who's getting 4 or 3 games this week. And maximizing games played, especially in the head-to-head playoffs, is very, very important. Let's look at front and back loading of the schedule. The following teams do not play until Wednesday. A lot of them, in fact. The Jazz, the Nuggets, Suns, Pelicans, Sixers, Knicks, and Blazers do not play to start the week. So again, you've got fringe guys on some of those teams, and you want to move on, they can be expendable. And then at the end of the week, the Bulls, the Pistons, and the Hawks don't play on the weekend. So if you had a Kobe White, if you've got a Corey Joseph, Kelly Olynyk, maybe you're still dealing with him for some reason, it's time to drop Danilo Gallinari because John Collins might be back on the weekend, then you drop those guys that don't play across Saturday, Sunday. So that is a way to approach that as well. But you know how to approach BetOnline. You approach it as the number 1 spot for all of your betting needs. Basketball's full steam ahead for both pro and college hoops. The latest odds, totals, player props, player performance props. I always have trouble with that. Player performance props. BetOnline.net is your number 1 spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline is the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds as well. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. Let's look at weekly leagues in categories. Players to add, players to sit. Obviously, we're looking at a couple of Raptors there. Kem Birch, the big tree, and Thad Young. This is with OG Anunoby out, remember? Siakam having illness issues and Van Vliet having sore knees. So the 5 games there really is important. You can have Boucher in that mix. He's already rostered in most spots, but he's a good add too. Jalen Smith with the Pacers, 4 games for Indiana. He's a pretty fantasy-friendly player when he gets the minutes. There's going to be ups and downs there, but Miles Turner won't play, so there's good value there. Isaiah Jackson and O'Shea Brissett should already be rostered. Grayson Allen, 4 games for the Bucks, probably gets 30 a night. Dante DiVincenzo, I don't think is a long-term 12-team league player in Sacramento, but they got 4 games. And when the majority of the league does not, that gives him a boost. You say the same for Davion Mitchell there too. PJ Tucker with his 4 games. Then Isaiah Roby. Now he's not blowing us away, but he might play 23 minutes a night for 4 games. It's 100 minutes basically for the week. A 3-game guy needs to be a 33-minute-a-night player to get to that same level. And yes, they might be more productive on a per-minute basis, but you can't ignore the fact that Roby might play 22, 22, 22, 26 across the week. That's a distinct possibility. It also might play 4 minutes because the Thunder rotation's a real pain in the ass. But there can be some value in him when the vast majority of the teams are playing less than 4 games, and he plays those 4 games. If we look at players we can sit in Portland, I think everybody, apart from Anthony Simons. So Justice Winslow, Josh Hart, you can sit those guys. You know, if you tried to take a flyer on Trendon Watford or Drew Eubanks, there's no use in it this week. I think we sit Kobe White. I think he's a drop, but if you're going to hold him, you sit him. Bob Covington, he's playing low minutes, but putting up crazy stats, but 3 games hard. Hassan Whiteside's not a must roster. He should be dropped, but if you are persisting for some bloody reason in holding onto him, he's a sit. Dennis Schroeder, similarly, even though he played so many minutes last game with Porter out with that ankle problem, I wouldn't bother starting him. And Jordan Clarkson with only 3 games, not the easiest guy, I don't think, to start for the week. In terms of guys to start or to add in points leagues for the week, of course, it's going to be Patrick Beverley. I know last game he had played 19 minutes. He fouled out or had real foul trouble. Thad Young. The Pacers were going Isaiah Jackson, O'Shea Brissett, Darius Baisley, Davion Mitchell, Jalen Smith, DeAnthony Melton. All these 4-game players. These players are Beverley, Jackson, Brissett. They all should be rostered in 12-team leagues. The other guys, Baisley, Mitchell, Smith, they're on the borderline. But Jackson, Beverley, Brissett should be 12-team league guys. In terms of players to sit in a points league for the week, all the Blazers again, apart from Anthony Simons, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jordan Poole, Devontae Graham, Kobe White, Bob Covington. And yes, people are still holding Rashawn Holmes. I literally had a question yesterday. Hey, should I drop Rashawn Holmes? Like, yes. Yes, you should have dropped him literally as soon as the trade deadline passed, and he wasn't traded. So yes, if you are still holding Rashawn Holmes and you are somehow watching this show and you've made it to the end, this answer's for you. Yes, you drop Rashawn Holmes. That will do it for me today. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. If you are here on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Leave your comments down below, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.